Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Miss Lydia from the Boston Library. Thank you so much for joining me for story time. Today we are talking all about ducks and geese. So I have some really fun stories to read for you. The first one is called Bear and Duck, written and illustrated by Katie Hudson. Bear was a bear, and in most ways he was just like any other bear. He was big and furry. He slept all winter and ate lots and lots of honey. But in one big way, Bear was not like all the other bears. Bear's problem was that he wished he weren't a bear at all. He was tired of sleeping all winter. His fur felt hot in the summer, and he was sick of all the angry bees. Look at all those bees. Why are they chasing him? What did he take? He's got all their honey. "Leave me alone," he growled, rubbing his sore, stung nose. "That's it," Bear decided. "I'm done being a bear." Just then, Bear heard a noise, a happy, I don't sleep all winter or have hot fur or bees stinging my nose kind of noise. Quack! The sound was like music to his ears. So Bear slipped into the line of happy yellow ducks. "Quack!" he chimed in. He watched the ducks' every move. Yes, he could get used to being a duck. In fact, he decided he was a good duck. Luckily, no one noticed the new duck until Bear let out a too loud and happy quack. "Stop right there, Bear. What are you doing in our line?" snapped Duck. "You don't belong here." "But please," said Bear, "I don't want to be a bear anymore. Can you please teach me how to be a duck? Please?" "Well, all right," said Duck. "I guess I can help." And he's got a book there that says, How to Be the Perfect Duck. How to be a duck. Rule number 1, nest building. Step 1, collect twigs and old leaves. Step 2, build a nest. Step 3, place egg in nest, sit on egg, keep egg safe and warm. Step 4, under no circumstances should you lose your egg. What did he lose? Looks like he lost his egg. How to be a duck. Rule number 2, swimming. Step 1, waddle into water. Step 2, flap feet one at a time to swim. Step 3, no splashing allowed. What is he doing? Looks like he's splashing. How to be a duck. Rule number 3, flying. Step 1, find perfect hill for takeoff. Step 2, run while flapping wings and keeping beak pointed upwards. Step 3, once in the air, crash. Oh dear. Bears can't fly, can they? This was definitely not going as planned. Bear wasn't good at being a duck after all. He looks very sad, doesn't he? Duck felt sorry for Bear. "Don't be sad, Bear. Look, you climbed a tree. Ducks can't do that." Bear felt a little better, and he decided to climb up and get that apple for Duck. The apple was very high, and the branch was very bendy. And Bear reached as far as he could when, boing! "I'm flying," Bear called out happily, "just like a duck." But inside, Bear wasn't actually happy at all. Flying twisted his tummy, and the landing was far too tricky. Crash. "I think I prefer climbing," he told Duck. "Being a bear doesn't seem all that bad," said Duck. "And you make a really good bear. And a really good friend." Our next book is called Little Quack from Thompson. Pictures by Derek Anderson. Mama Duck had 5 little ducklings, Whittle, Waddle, Piddle, Puddle, and Little Quack. They all lived together in a nice, soft nest. But even Mama's littlest duckling was not so little anymore. "It's time to leave the nest," she said one day. "Come, little ducklings," Mama called. "Paddle on the water with me." The 5 little ducklings squeezed close in the nest. "No, Mama, no," they cried. "We're too scared." "You can do it," Mama said. "I know you can." And here it says, "Count along with the quackulator." No ducklings in the pond yet. All at once, Whittle felt very brave. She jumped into the pond. "Splish! Look!" she cried. "Look at me!" Now, 4 little ducklings snuggled close in the nest. "Come, little ducklings," Mama called again. "Paddle on the water with me." "No, Mama, no, we're too scared," cried Waddle, Piddle, Puddle, and Little Quack. "You can do it," Mama said. "I know you can." So now we have 1 duckling in the pond. When Waddle felt very brave, he plopped into the pond. "Splash! Hooray!" he cried. "Hooray for me!" Now 3 little ducklings clung close in the nest. "Come, little ducklings," Mama called again. "Paddle on the water with me." "No, Mama, no, we're too scared," cried Piddle, Puddle, and Little Quack. "You can do it," Mama said. "I know you can." Now how many ducklings do we have in the pond? 1, 2. Then Piddle, for a moment, felt very brave, and she wiggled into the water. "Sploosh! It's fun," she cried. "Lots of fun." Now 2 little ducklings cuddled close in the nest. "Come, little ducklings," Mama called again. "Paddle on the water with me." "No, Mama, no, we're too scared," cried Puddle and Little Quack. "You can do it," Mama said. "I know you can." Now how many ducklings are on the pond? There are 1, 2, 3. At last, Puddle felt very brave too. He leaped into the water. Splosh! "Wait," he cried, "wait for me." That left just 1 little duckling in the nest. Just 1 little quack. "Come, little duckling," Mama called once more. "Paddle on the water with me." "No, Mama, no," cried Little Quack. "I'm scared. I'm just too scared." "You can do it," Mama said. "We know you can," said Whittle, Waddle, Puddle, and Piddle. And now, how many ducklings are on the nest? Just 1 duckling on the nest. How many are in the pond? 1, 2, 3, 4. Little Quack looked at the water. He sniffed the water. He touched the water with his foot. Could he do it? Did he dare? Suddenly, Little Quack felt just brave enough. He closed his eyes and then, splish, splash, sploosh, splash, into the water he plunged. "I did it," he cried. "I really did it." "I always knew you could," Mama said. Then off they went, 5 little ducklings, proud as can be. Whittle, Waddle, Piddle, Puddle, and brave Little Quack. So how many ducklings do we have in the pond now? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and their mama. Our next book is called Duck and Goose Go to the Beach by Tad Hills. "Don't you just love it here, Duck?" Goose honked. The 2 friends relaxed in the early morning sun and listened to the hum of the meadow. Butterflies flitted and grass swished in the breeze. "Yes, I do," Duck agreed. "Let's never leave," said Goose. Suddenly, Duck jumped up. "You just gave me the greatest idea, Goose," he quacked. "Let's leave. Let's go away." "A what?" Goose honked. "Away. Let's take a trip," said Duck. Goose gulped. "A trip? A trip sounds far away. I like close." "We could go on an adventure," Duck said. "An adventure? That sounds scary," Goose honked. "Come on, Goose. A hike might be fun," Duck quacked. A hike? Said Goose. That sounds like a fine way to twist your ankle. Duck sighed. He gazed across the meadow towards a distant hill and began walking. Goose followed. I will walk, but I will not hike, he grumbled. Why would anyone want to leave the meadow? Goose wondered aloud. Like this stump, this hollow log, the gurgling stream, the lily pond, or our ball, of course. And don't forget the shady thicket. Duck and Goose floated along the stream they'd never floated along before. They walked by piles of stones they'd never walked by before, and past the biggest tree they'd ever seen. They walked across fields and up and down hills. By the time Goose reached the top of the highest hill, Duck was already gazing off into the distance. What's that? He quacked. Could it be the beach? Goose honked. Duck's tail twitched with excitement. I'm pretty sure I love the beach. You've been to the beach? Asked Goose. No, not yet, said Duck, and he took off down the hill. Follow me, Goose. We're going to the beach. Goose chased after Duck. But Duck, we already had our adventure, he called. Wait, he shouted. Slow down, he honked. But Duck did not slow down. Goose followed him through the brambles and the tall grass until finally Duck stopped. I think we've arrived at the beach, said Duck. Oh my, the beach is loud, yelled Duck over the sound of the waves. I can barely hear my own quack. Goose stared at the vast stretch of sky, sand and sea. Isn't it magnificent? He said. Oh dear, the beach has so much water, quacked Duck. I feel tiny. Have you ever seen so much sand? Honked Goose. It's getting in my feathers and it's too hot on my feet, said Duck. Let's go. Go swimming? Good idea, Duck, said Goose, and he raced to the water's edge. No, Goose, wait for me. Who's already in the water? It's Goose, right? Duck dipped his hot feet in the water. Goose, you know these waves are very... Oh, look at that wave. These waves are very fun. Isn't that what you were going to say, Duck? Honked Goose. Not exactly. Look, he came up with lots of seaweed on his head, didn't he? The two friends strolled along the beach. They met the locals. Some were friendly, others were not. The crab wasn't very friendly. Some were shy, like the clam. Others were not, like the seagull. Goose thought Duck might enjoy searching for sea creatures under the rocks and seaweed. He did not. Be careful, Goose. You don't know what's in there, Duck quacked. They built a drip castle, and they listened to the gentle roar of the ocean from deep within a seashell. It made Duck homesick. It sounds just like our gurgling stream, he quacked. Later in the day, when the sand had cooled and the waves had settled, Duck and Goose relaxed. I like the smell of the beach, Goose said. Me too, Duck agreed, but not as much as the meadow. Well, there's no place like the meadow, honked Goose. That is very true, said Duck. So in the late afternoon, Duck and Goose followed their long shadows home. They talked about their exciting day and about the friends they'd met. They talked about the hot sand and the cool water and the noisy crashing waves and the quiet tidal pools. Back in the meadow at last, they watched the sun set. Birds sang and grass swished in the breeze. They both agreed that it was nice to be home. Duck, where shall we go next? Goose asked. Duck closed his eyes. How about to sleep? Our last book for today is called Mother Bruce. And you see the word goose, it's crossed off. This is Mother Bruce by Ryan T. Higgins. Bruce was a bear who lived all by himself. He was a grump. He did not like sunny days. He did not like rain. He did not like cute little animals. Bruce only liked one thing, eggs. "Good morning, Mrs. Sparrow," he says. He collected them from all over the forest. But Bruce didn't eat eggs raw like other bears. Instead, he cooked them into fancy recipes that he found online. One day, Bruce came across a recipe for hard-boiled goose eggs drizzled with honey salmon sauce. So he went out to get the ingredients. First, he caught a few salmon. Then he collected honey from a local beehive. He liked to support local businesses, you see. Last, he went to Mrs. Goose's nest to pay her a visit. "Are these free-range eggs?" He took all her eggs. At home, Bruce prepared the eggs for hard boiling. But the fire in his stove fizzled, so he went out to get more wood. And when Bruce came back, he was met with an unwelcome surprise. "Mama!" Bruce became the victim of mistaken identity. Bruce wanted hard-boiled eggs, not goslings. He supposed he could settle for buttered goslings on toast. But for some reason, he lost his appetite. Bruce scooped up the little geese and stomped back to their nest. "I will have to ask Mrs. Goose about her return policy." But he found that Mrs. Goose had flown south early. And there she left a note that says, "Be back in April." Bruce left the goslings there anyway and went back home. "Mama, Mama!" But he was followed. Bruce was very stern and said things like, "Go away," and "I am not your mother," and also, "I liked you better when you were eggs." Bruce could take it no longer and became extra grumpy with them. And what did he do? He let out a giant roar. It didn't work. Goslings always follow their mother, even if she is a he and he is a bear. Bruce was stuck with them. So he tried to make the best of it. He got them a little pool, didn't he? It was hard work. There they are making art. He's got a little carrier for them. Here he is trying to feed them. And what do they say? "Ugh, ew, yuck." He looks pretty tired, doesn't he? As the seasons passed, Bruce watched the pesky goslings grow older, from annoying baby geese to stubborn teenage geese to boring adult geese. Then, one fall afternoon, he saw the other goose families flying south. Finally, he'd be rid of those geese, and he could take a long winter nap. Bruce explained migration, but they didn't listen. Bruce needed these geese to leave, so he got creative. There he is trying to slingshot them into the air. He got them little planes. Nothing worked. The geese would not leave Bruce. Sigh. So Bruce decided to pack some bags and take his geese into town. They boarded a bus and migrated to Miami. Now every winter, Bruce and his geese head south together. They laze about at the beach in tacky shirts, sipping ice-cold lemonade, while Bruce dreams of new recipes. Recipes that don't hatch. Oh, who's that? It's a turtle, and he says, "Mama." Oh, he thinks the goose is his mama. I hope you enjoyed our duck and goose stories for today. Enjoy the week, and we will see you next week.